Hey everybody, What's It Fox Gaming here. So I've got a new PvP build for you today. I've noticed a lot of people have been running the two talents that you see here, Unbreakable and Vigilance, in conjunction with a lot of weapon damage, so a high red build, typically pairing it with something like Eagle Bearer or possibly an in-sync AR. And you know, that's been popular for a good few weeks now. One of my friends, Rage KITN, was running that a few months ago, and you know, he does really well with it. And yeah, some of the people that I've seen running this seem to have a lot of success with it. So I thought I'd do my own version of it and see how I personally get on with it. What I discovered whilst sort of testing a few different versions of this build, because obviously I didn't just want to copy what everybody else had done, I like to put my own sort of twist on it, is there's actually quite a lot of synergy between quite an underrated talent, Measured. It's definitely above average as far as weapon talents go, and Vigilance, and I'll try and demonstrate that in the conflict gameplay that I'm about to load into. So we'll quickly go through the build first, and I'll explain my choices here and why I think there's some synergy between Measured and Vigilance, and then we'll load in and hopefully melt some faces off. So my weapon of choice here is the FAL. I was lucky enough to get this from one of my friends who I run the raid with quite frequently. He dropped me this triple god roll, which is phenomenal. You know, it's got the best attribute you can get on a gun as well, damage to targets out of cover. So what I've done is I've re-rolled the talent to Measured. So the top half of the magazine has a 20% rate of fire but 30% reduced damage. So essentially in those first 20 bullets, with the extended mag, because you have 40 total, you do fire quite a fair bit more quickly. Now, yes, you're losing that weapon damage, so the overall weapon damage of that first sort of half of the mag is definitely lower than not having this perk, but the DPS of the weapon in that first half is higher. You know, DPS is of course separate to total weapon damage, because that's just how much damage you can get out in a second, you know, damage per second. So you get that initial burst of raw damage, and then when you move into the bottom half of the magazine, it then has minus 20% rate of fire, so it's quite slow, but it has 30% increased weapon damage. So where I believe the synergy exists with Vigilance is is a very good backpack talent. It increases total weapon damage by 25%, so it's pretty much the best in slot if you're just talking about damage. However, taking any form of damage disables that buff for 4 seconds, or 3 seconds if you run the gift. So my thought process here, and I tested this out and it does seem to work, is when you're coming into a 1v1 engagement and you see that person just before they see you, you're going to get a few bullets down, and within a second or so, them or somebody else is going to start shooting into you, which will of course lose the Vigilance buff. So with Measured, if I get those first few shots off, because the first half of the mag has the 20% rate of fire, it's going to be that instant burst damage. It's really high damage in conjunction with Vigilance, and then by the time they've started shooting back into me, I've lost the Vigilance perk, but that then puts me, you know, roughly at the bottom half of the mag, where I'm then doing that 30% increased weapon damage at the slow rate of fire. So that means that my mag will last longer, which means I can burst them down sort of continually, and even though Vigilance has gone by then, I'm just getting that increased damage. So it seems to work quite well, and you know, I think that Measured is underrated and definitely worth trying out with this build. The rest of my build is very similar to what you've seen out there, but I'll go through it with you all anyway. So of course we're running Unbreakable, because this is a high red build and you can see I've only got one blue. This is just a way to stay alive. I typically play quite aggressively when I have Unbreakable ready to go, and when it's already kicked in, I will play a bit more passively until the cooldown has reset. We are running one piece Seska. Now this is obviously a god roll mask here. You ideally want to get every single of your pieces very similar to this. High weapon damage, high crit chance, high crit damage, with a crit chance or damage mod. I appreciate that I play this game a lot and I am quite lucky with RNG, and some of you might be less lucky. If that's the case, don't worry, you can still put this build together. Just get your critical hit chance to as close to 60% as possible via the weapon mods, the gear mods, and of course just having crit chance rolled. You can see I've got a Seska in here to help out with that crit chance as well, as it's the first piece talent. And then just put the rest into crit damage. It doesn't really make a difference how high you get it, but obviously higher is better. So we've got the one Seska there. Our chest is a Fenris because we are using an AR. Again, this is very similarly rolled. It's high weapon damage, crit chance, and crit damage with that crit damage mod. I've got two-piece Providence. The holster is the first piece at 15% headshot damage, which works very well with a FAL because it is a laser. Of course, you can use whatever you want. A FAMAS is a great choice. Police M4. It doesn't really make a difference what you want to use. I mean, the most common version I've seen of this build is 1 to 2 blues, 4 reds, and an Eagle Bearer because that's a headshot beast. But as I say, I wanted to demonstrate that Vigilance Measured synergy here today. The backpack is very similar. Now I was lucky enough to already be at crit chance with the rest of my gear pieces, so this actually rolled with headshot damage and critical hit damage. If you're already at the max crit chance and you've got a piece that you can roll like this, you want to look at either headshot damage if you're using a stable AR or even weapon handling. I went for headshot damage because that classes as base damage, so all of your buffs including your critical hit damage is on top of that. So for me that was a no-brainer, but weapon handling is a great second option if that's all you can get. I then decided to go for 2 named items to buff my base damage as well. So we've got the Contractor's Gloves, which are named petrol gloves that you can get anywhere in game. 8% damage to armor. This is really effective against tanks. So yeah, and it works against skills as well. So this is a nice thing here. And then the final piece is the Fox's Prayer, which I still think are best in slot for any DPS build. You can work around not having contractors if you've got like double Walker or something, double Walker Harris and co. But I do believe that Fox's Prayer with the 8% damage to targets out of cover is just the best thing you can go for. And as mine already rolled incredibly well with critical hit damage, this is what I rolled to blue. But obviously you can have any combination of talents here, and you know, it doesn't really make a difference how you do this. You can move these around as much as you want, but if you can squeeze a Fox's Prayer in there, you will notice a damage difference. My skills of choice are a shield for 2 reasons. 1, being a very low armor build, this gives us a bit more survivability. And 2, vigilance actually stays active if they shoot your shield but don't damage your own personal armor. So it just retains that buffer a bit longer if they can't quite hit your head. So yeah, I went for the Crusader shield there. You could use a striker if you're using Firewall, but there is a reason that I'm using Gunner, so I went for the Crusader shield. And my second skill is the Booster Hive. Again, one of the weaknesses of this build is its low armor, and status builds are dangerous to a low armor build. So the Booster Hive is very effective at, first of all, giving you 20% resistance to hazard protection, as you can see in the description there. Mine's actually 21.6 because of the mod. But if you don't know, ever since TU 10.1, if ever a drone from the Hive hits you, it instantly cleanses all status effects for you and whoever else it hits. So regardless of the buff amount and what skill tier you're at, I'm currently at 0, it will just cleanse all status effects. So it's quite powerful as a counter to Eclipse. But it also gives us 21.6% weapon handling as well, which is really nice because it means that our gun is going to be more stable, reload faster and more accurate as well. So Booster Hive is really good. A great option here to run with your shield would possibly be an EMP jammer, a pulse, a decoy. Just play what you're comfortable with. But as you all know from, you know, if you've been around for a while on my channel, my sort of goal with my builds is to have a bit of a unique twist on it, to build around a talent and to try and reduce the weaknesses of a build whilst buffing its strengths. And this is a way to, along with the shield, to kind of help negate some of those weaknesses, which is mainly that I'm incredibly squishy. We are using Gunner because that gives us a few benefits. Now, this build is quite flexible. You don't need to worry too much about what specialization you use, but Gunner gives us a very nice armor kit that gives us 30% bonus armor. Again, helps counter those status effects. Gives us 5% increased rate of fire and kill, and that's just when they go down, not when they're fully dead. Okay, I guess we start the game late. It gives us 50% increased reload speed every 3 reloads, and you can just fire a bullet and reload, and that's already one of them, so you don't have to be a reload from empty. And it has a riot foam grenade, which is also quite effective at flushing snipers out of cover. So for me, Gunner is the best in slot, but honestly, you wouldn't do less damage by running another talent. This guy's got schmelted. So you saw just initially there that big bit of burst damage. Right now I've used my Unbreakable. I'm not going to engage this. If I had Unbreakable there, I would have taken that fight. I think I'm about to get pushed here though, so I've got to be really careful. Did someone just run right past me? He did. So you saw that instant burst. I was the only person firing into that guy. He had Lady Death, Firewall, so he had all of those damage buffs. And just because of that Vigilance still being active and me being able to get a huge portion of my mag out in that tiny window that Vigilance was active, at least until he got a shot on me, that's a perfect demonstration of how effective Measured is with Vigilance. I believe it is a top tier combination of talents, and I know Measured is underrated. It used to be absolutely awful until they buffed it. It was just lower damage across both halves of the mag, so they didn't think that one through. It did get a buff way back when, and no, it won't compete with builds like InSync and so on. But is it a high tier choice, an above average choice? Yes, absolutely it is. There's a slow rate of fire there. So now that we've lost our Vigilance, I'm going to pull back. I do have my... I was about to say I've got my Unbreakable to fall back on there, but for some reason that didn't go off.
Agent incapacitated.
sometimes people can burst through harder grade and Unbreakable, which is obviously not a good thing. It's just because this game has quite a low server tick rate, so information from your platform to their servers. Yeah, look, it procced. Oh, maybe they just hit so hard that I didn't see it, but when I was watching my health there, it looked like I just went straight down to 0 without the Unbreakable. Weirdly, I'm halfway through my... Did I already have that? Was that already used and I just didn't see it? I don't know, you guys will have to let me know in the comments there. I might have just not realised that I'd already activated, but I swear that wasn't on cooldown and it didn't activate, and now I've got half the cooldown left, so who knows. So yeah, that was a perfect demonstration of where the build is weak. You do not want to be playing front lines, which I'm kind of doing here. You want to be playing behind your team, and if you don't get hit and you can retain vigilance for as long as humanly possible, it slaps. It absolutely destroys people. So again, you saw that huge burst damage there. That guy definitely had more armor than I did, and I was able to really chunk him down. What I'm going to do here is push the roof, which is probably suicide. You should never do this push in a conflict game if you don't know where people are. Oh, got away with it though. Someone on the other side of the roof.
Rogue Stinger Hive detected.
So what I'm going to do here, if you watch the bleed, I'll drop this. Watch the bleed disappear. Instant, just like that. Skill tier 1. Oh, it's skill tier 0 in fact. And then of course after that I've got the resistances. And the weapon handling to be... Oh, hello buddy. Is he coming up the ladder? No? Okay. Oh, my accuracy was honking there. If I'd have just been more accurate, I would have gotten that kill. Look at that, even chunking down through his firewall hills. If I'd have had one other teammate shooting into that guy, I would have won that fight.
I'm sending you a specialization supply
Yep,
drop.
I should have waited till he started climbing the ladder. That would have been Right, now that I've used Unbreakable, I'm going to disengage from that fight. So that's how you want to play it. If you've got Unbreakable, stay with your 1v1s. Oh, I'm a bit screwed here because that hive is still there. Ooh, just stopped that in time. Yeah, this guy definitely knows I'm here. Is he going to push me? I think the hive is probably giving me away. This.
The enemy is claiming the supply drop.
Right, he knows I'm here. I think he's going to push that now.
The
Come on, you know you want
supply
to.
drop has fallen into enemy hands.
And you see how long this hive is lasting. Yes, I know I'm not with my team, but finally it's disappeared. There we go. Right, now I can actually creep. Oh, the last one alive. Oh, I'm the last one alive. I forgot I joined this game late.
Boost about to activate.
Give the head, give the head. That's the problem, it's kicking there. No, reload. Another one down.
Almost out.
I got 2 down. That's the best I could do in that situation. So again, I did lose that fight there, but hopefully that demonstrates the raw strength of the build. I think my shield was hopefully keeping my vigilance active a bit longer than normal there, but that burst damage from Measured is insane. You want to try and use it with a sort of a medium rate of fire weapon. That's why I went for the FAL, because it's kind of, I know it's one of the more low rate of fire weapons, but they obviously have very high base damage, and then they fire more slowly to kind of balance that out. So having that instant burst with a high rate of fire, with a lower rate of fire gun that has more damage, yes, I know you lose some damage from that first part, but the DPS is higher. You get that instant burst, and yeah, honestly, I really think it works well. So I only actually got 1 kill there, which is a bit of a shame. I joined that game very late, so that probably seems really bad, but it's the one thing I always ask of you all. Don't judge a build that I come up with based on my own performance, because I am a relatively average gamer, and I'm, one of my clanmates has taken one of my builds and he plays it far better than I ever did. So try it out for yourself first. Let me know what you think. If you come up with any better variations, please do let me know in the comments. Yeah, I like it. It works for me, and I feel like I got a good bit of damage off there in the relatively short game that was. But yeah, I appreciate that it might not be for everyone. I did have one of my followers, AA Brian, just sort of request to see how good the conflict caches are now. So just before I end this video, I'm going to quickly open these 7 caches, and then we'll have a look at the quality of the loot. I get a lot of sort of double and triple god rolls from these, or at least single god rolls. You know, you might only get 1 or 2 out of 20, but that's not bad for just a free reward from just playing a conflict game. And you can get up to 3 caches per game, so don't know why these are blanked out. So that seems to be about 75% or higher. I mean, that's not a bad, to be fair, that's not a bad piece at all. I can't see where I am. So again, pretty good, pretty well rolled there. That's 12.5% weapon damage, critical hit chance and damage. So I'm probably going to keep that. That's a Fenris. Let's mark that as a favourite. I don't know why this is all bugging out and where the rest of my stuff has gone. I'm so confused. Oh, the rest are weapons, okay. So low damage, but pretty high other attributes. Again, roughly 75%. Yeah, not a bad roll. So you see the stat rolls are quite high on these weapons. I mean, that's a very nice... Oh, no, ignore that, that's my chameleon. I'm getting these blank squares for some reason, that's really strange. But yeah, so, you know, I think that the conflict caches are good. I've heard a few people have concerns about them, but hopefully that was enough to show you there, Brian, that they are quite well rolled and you can get some really good stuff out of those conflict and DZ caches. So we'll call the video quits there. Thank you very much if you did stick through to the end. Let me know in the comments what you think to the build and if you've got any variations that you want me to try out or that you just think work better. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.